Hello, my name is Corey, and this is my lumbar discectomy story and journey. I'm creating this video because I know when I was looking into things after I got two different opinions from two different doctors, I started Google searching, I started YouTube searching microdiscectomies, and it helped me a lot in making my decision. So I'm creating this video. Some of the videos I watched were a couple of years old, or even longer than that. So hopefully this will help some people because this is a newer video. It's November 2019. So I'm going to create this overall video in many different segments. This first segment is going to be just my story up to my surgery. And then the second video will be the day of surgery. And then the third video will be like the day after. And then I'll have several videos after that, just kind of detailing my progression. So to make things real brief, so to be up front, I am 6'3", 250. So I'm a bigger guy. And the reason why I say that is because I think some of the things that happen during surgery and even after surgery, I think that your weight and your height affects all of that as far as meds go and anesthesia and all that other stuff. But to give you just a brief backdrop, excuse me, my throat is a little sore from having the tube down my throat yesterday during surgery, but just give a brief backdrop. This all started last January 2019, so about 10 and a half months ago. I believe what happened is what did happen was during that polar vortex cold front that came through the snow and the cold weather, I walked out to my Jeep one day and I slipped and fell and fell pretty hard. And again, at being 250 pounds, that's a lot of weight that fell on me. And I think that's what initially caused what started out as a bulged disc. Now, if I can say this, both doctors that I talked to, both spine surgeons I talked to, both said that a pretty high percentage of Americans already have bulged disc. They just don't know about it, and because not every bulged disc can cause pain. A lot of times you don't even know you even have a bulged disc. So I just wanted to say that up front. And I think that I probably already had somewhat of a bulged disc just from military life, being active my whole life, working out, and so on. But I think that when I fell, that kind of started things, if you will. So like a couple days after I fell, I noticed when brushing my teeth one morning that I had like a kind of a pain in my right glute that ran down the back of my right leg, like my hamstring and so on. Kind of that pinching feeling, tightness, if you will. And if any of you ever been in the gym, if any of you have ever worked out at all or ever pulled a muscle, you know, that's kind of what that feeling was. And that's what I thought it was just a pulled muscle. And I just thought to myself, okay, give it a day or a week or so and it'll heal up on its own. But unfortunately, days led to weeks led to months. And that's when I eventually went to my doctor and said, hey, I don't think this is a pulled muscle. I think there's something more involved. And I was Googling searching during that month or so, and a lot of it pointed towards my sciatica. So I mentioned that to my doctor. I mentioned the sciatica. So he prescribed me some oral steroid, which helped tremendously. But if anybody knows about oral steroids, you can only take them for so long, and then once you're off them, those symptoms seem to come back. And so that's what happened with me. Is I took that oral steroid for I think it was a week, and during that week I had a lot of relief from that kind of that pinching, pulling sensation in my glute and my hamstring. But once I got off of it, the symptoms came right back. So then I went in for an MRI, and sure enough, the MRI showed a bulged disc. So then I started going to PT. I think finding the right PT is also key, because I kind of had a younger PT, physical therapist, who didn't maybe seem to know what he was doing, maybe, or maybe he was just young and just didn't, hadn't been in the practice very long. But needless to say, the PT didn't work. So then I went in to get a shot, a cortisone shot, and they put the cortisone shot in my lower back, obviously. And let me go back. So first of all, the MRI showed that I had a bulged disc in my L5 S1. That disc right there, that between your L5 and S1, that disc was bulged out. So to go back, so they gave me that shot in my back, and the shot did absolutely nothing for me, nothing at all. So I was kind of like, well, what do I do now? Do I just keep kind of doing the PT stuff and just hoping it will heal on its own? So that's kind of where I was at. And then June 1st, and I remember like it was yesterday, because it was a week of my birthday, number one. But number two, it's the moment in my life where I've experienced the most excruciating pain ever. It was just excruciating. Somewhere in that Sunday night, Monday morning, while I was asleep time frame, I woke up with the most excruciating pain. Like, I have a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the worst, so it was like a 20. Very excruciating, it was just pain. And this time it was pain. The pain had gone from my right glute to now it's in my left glute, both glutes. It had run down both legs, and now part of my left foot was numb, including my pinky toe. So I basically laid on the floor that night, and just tried to be as comfortable as I could, and called my doctor the next morning, and they prescribed me some tramadol. And so, again, this is why I mentioned my weight at the beginning of this video, because the dosage they gave me was not anywhere near the dosage that I needed. My aunt has been a pharmacist, or has worked in the pharmacy for 45 years. And when I told her the dosage they had given me, she laughed at me, and she was like, that's the dosage to give a person my size. She's like barely 5 foot. So, taking the tramadol, along with ibuprofen and so on and so forth. So for the next couple of weeks, I was just miserable. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't get comfortable. I would come home from work. Actually, at work, I would lay on my back in the office, lay down on my back for 10, 15 minutes at a time, just to relieve the pain. I couldn't stand. I couldn't walk. It was just unbearable. I come home from work. I would just lay straight down. The week of my birthday, I had some people over, and I was literally laying down in the living room on my back, trying to eat cake and ice cream, which is no fun whatsoever. And then one day I went to talk to my best friend and his wife, and she mentioned Neurontin, how Neurontin had helped her with her pain in her back. So I went to my primary doctor, and he prescribed me some Neurontin. So, so I was, and also in that time frame, me and my fiance, we actually had just bought a brand new bed about a year ago. We went back to the bed store and bought another brand new bed, bought a Tempur-Pedic, because we were thinking, well, that would probably help me sleep as well, which it did. They are great beds. So that makes a big difference too. So it was a few weeks into June now, probably like the second or third week into June. I obviously demanded another MRI, because obviously it got a lot worse. And now that bulge that was there had now turned into a herniation. And it was protruding out my left and right side between my L5 and S1. And it was pushing on both nerves, which was the reason why it was hurting on both sides. So, yeah, that's kind of what started everything. So from that point, I had met with a doctor, a neurosurgeon, and he kind of gave me the doomsday story. He was talking about, cutting a disc out and doing a disc fusion, or doing a fusion, basically cutting a disc out and fusing my L5 and S1 together, which I walked out of the office after having my consultation with him. I walked out of the office just emotionally. It was just like, you gotta be kidding me. I mean, that's like what I thought to myself, that's what old people do, and I felt very old at the time. But I was it just was a very dark time for me when I got that news and got that consultation. And then, so at that point in time, my friends and family said, "Wait, maybe you need to get a second opinion and go to a second doctor and get a second opinion." And that's when I met with my surgeon who did my surgery yesterday, Dr. Clark. He mentioned that yes, what the first doctor said to do is true and would be a solution. It's a last result solution in his eyes. So he mentioned just going in and doing a discectomy, which is where you just cut out the piece of the disc that is pushing on the nerves. He said it'd be outpatient surgery. He said the results of that are usually really, really good. He said you have like a 90% chance to be back to 90% normal. And I was like, well, it's good enough for me. I just wanted my quality of life back. And when I say quality of life, obviously people who are watching this video don't know who I am or know anything about me, but I live a very active lifestyle. I've used to work out 5 days a week, very active in the summertime, a lot of camping, hiking, kayaking, and so on. So being that it's November right now, and being that the bulge turned to a herniation the first week of June, that's like, 5 or 6 months that I've just been miserable and not been able to work out, not been able to do anything at all for the last 5 or 6 months. And I'm sure those of you who are watching this video can probably, you're probably feeling the same way. It's just very incapacitating. And it's just, you're in constant pain all day long. So Dr. Clark recommended that. And so once he recommended that, he said, but the first thing I'd like you to do is I'd like to have you try injections again. He said the first step he would take is doing injections one more time and seeing if that works. And then if that hasn't worked, then we'll go ahead and go forward with the microdiscectomy. So I went in September to a pain clinic, and they gave me 6 injections, 3 on each side, up and down the back in the lower lumbar area. And those did absolutely nothing for me at all. I mean, I felt good for a couple of days as the medication was in there, but it really did nothing for me at all. The pain was back a couple of days later, and there was really no relief at all. I'm glad I took that step, obviously, as people who are watching this video, you should also take that step. You should take every step you can leading up to surgery. But for me, it did nothing for me. So the day I went back to my follow-up for my injection follow-up, I went in the afternoon, basically told the pain clinic that, the shots did nothing for me, because I was scheduled to do 3 rounds of them. So my follow-up was like 2 weeks after my initial injection. I went there for a follow-up and to schedule my second shots, my second appointment for injections. And when I was there, the nurse was like, well, listen, if the shots did absolutely nothing for you, then there's probably a pretty good chance that the second shots and the third shots won't do anything for you as well. So she said, we're just going to recommend you back to your surgeon and go from there. So driving back to work, I actually called up my surgeon and asked if he had any free time that afternoon to meet with me, and he did. So I had stopped in the office, actually on the way back to work. I stopped in his office and just asked him a few more questions. And then I said, okay, let's go ahead and get the surgery scheduled. So they scheduled it for November 6th, which was yesterday. And so here we are. This is post-op day one over here. So I'm gonna stop this video right now, and then I will create a new video explaining the day of the surgery. If anybody has any questions or comments, feel free to leave them, and I'll try and answer the best of my ability. So yeah,